All right, here we go. We're connecting the dots, folks, taking a look at individual ideas and compiling them together in a way that, at least in my opinion, makes a ton of sense. Today we're going over onto a bunch of articles and a bunch of trade updates in regards to the Montreal Canadiens and your local favorite team down there in Tennessee, the Nashville Predators, baby. Now, yesterday we did make a video talking about some of the words that we had heard from Pierre LeBrun and Frank Seravalli. Because, oddly enough, they both came out with similar trade updates for the Montreal Canadiens on the same day. They both said that the Montreal Canadiens are looking for top 4 right-handed defenseman help. Because the team, right now, they kinda stink defensively. And with the rotating cast of D-men throughout the top and the bottom of the lineup, there is, you could say, a need that is there to get some extra support and to bring on some guys who can help this team stay competitive. Not because the Canadiens are trying to win the Stanley Cup in 2025, but because they just kind of need to get the ball rolling on being a good team. They're, I guess, good enough to build towards the future, but for right now, they do kind of stink and there is a capacity for improvement on that blue line. So, right-handed defensemen, these are the targets that the Habs have. This was given to us by Pierre LeBrun and Frank Seravalli on the same day. Yesterday's video went out there and talked all about it. Great. Now, let's go over into some of the extra updates we had seen out of other insiders around the league. In particular, Darren Dreger, who had himself this radio hit on TSN 690 Montreal, asking if Kent Hughes is going to make a trade. Now, I'll leave a link in the description to the audio itself. It's a 17-minute clip. It's on TSN's website, so obviously if you're on a computer, you could go out there and listen to it. But I'll also leave a link in the description to this article on habsfanatics.com by Elias Ediam that goes out there and highlights what exactly it is Darren Dreger says. The audio clip on tsn.ca is just audio. There's no text transcribing anything, so the habsfanatics.com article is helpful to us because it gives us the comments that Darren Dreger made. Take a look at this. Speaking on TSN earlier yesterday morning, Darren Dreger confirmed that Kent Hughes has reached out to teams following his club's poor start to the season. I think teams struggling at the start of the year are looking to shake things up, Dreger said. He believes that Kent Hughes might look towards a project, and he mentions the name of Nashville Predators defenseman Dante Fabbro. Good players aren't randomly available, but you can find a project, a guy on waivers, or even a guy who no longer seems part of his team's plans. I used Dante Fabbro as an example last night on insider trading. There's no real risk. If there is a trade like this that makes sense, and Kent Hughes is willing to take a chance, why not try something? Dante Fabbro could maybe fill a gap or a spot, Dreger said. This article then goes out there and says that they don't really agree with the idea. Fabbro is a less appealing version of Justin Barron, and the writer here doesn't believe that he's what Montreal needs right now, plus Fabbro is far from being an established NHL top 4 defenseman. Well, let's go out there and challenge that, shall we? Dante Fabbro was drafted by the Preds in the 2016 NHL Entry Draft, and he's 26 years old at the time of recording this audio. Right-handed guy, 6 feet, 190, who is coming off of a 13-point year in 56 games played. He did have 24 points in 66 games in 21-22, but that was a while ago. Now, playing for the Preds, he's got 0 points in 4 games, and he's getting around, let's say, 12 minutes of time on ice per night, highlighted by a 12-minute game to open up the season, followed up by 2 15-minute games, and then a 10-minute game. He hasn't played all the Nashville Predators games this year. He hasn't necessarily been the most relied upon guy. So when you think about Fabbro as a quote-unquote top 4 option, obviously that's not necessarily it. He's not necessarily what fits into the description of what Pierre LeBrun and Frank Seravalli were talking about yesterday. Dreger does, however, mention that finding that top 4 guy, it's not gonna be easy. Because look, how many top 4 right-handed defensemen are available on the trade market, especially this early on into the year? Screw the salary. Who cares about the salary? Just try to think about the names itself. What guy is out there that would be an option on the trade market at this point? A guy like Dante Fabbro is not a top 4 caliber defenseman, nor do the Predators really think he has that potential at this stage in his career, so maybe he's a guy who's available on the market just because he doesn't fit what the Predators have in mind. So when you think about the Montreal Canadiens getting some sort of a project, another guy who might be a shot in the dark, but a diamond in the rough at the same time, all you need is one of these diamonds in the rough to work out, and all of a sudden you're golden. You get the Justin Barons, you get the Dante Fabbros, for example, you get all these other guys that could be stopgaps short-term or longer-term projectable pieces, and all you need is one of them to hit for you to look like a genius. But when it comes to the trade return, okay, let's dive into another conversation. Take a look at this post on thescore.com by Sean O'Leary. Barry Trotz, the Nashville Predators GM, is working to add a center. No one's trading anybody right now. I've been working the phones, Trotz recently told 102.5 The Game. No one's trading anyone right now. Maybe I would try to find another centerman, but no one's giving their centerman away. The only thing we can do is internally. This quote was kind of tossed around there, but we didn't really see too much of it, mostly because, look, I don't want to offend anybody, but the Nashville Predators don't really have the most hot topics amongst the NHL world. Like, if it was Kent Hughes saying that he's looking for a center, that quote would have been everywhere. But it's Nashville, so especially for the folks up here in Canada, we don't really get too much of the Nashville news, but it was talked about on different websites like The Score and The Fourth Period, and as a result, we've got another article responding to that idea like this. Could Christian Dvorak be on the Nashville Predators' radar? Interesting. The Habs do have a player that fits the Nashville Predators' criteria in Christian Dvorak, and I can't believe Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton would not be open to trading him. So, when you think about this, would it be reasonable to see some sort of a Dante Fabbro for Christian Dvorak trade? I mean, Dreger tossed out Fabbro as a potential Canadiens target, and with the Preds being in the market for a center, is Christian Dvorak not exactly that? A guy who could play middle to top 6 caliber minutes with solid defensive play and maybe an offensive game that needs to be refined a little bit, but then again, you could give him the benefit of the doubt because he's been playing on Montreal this entire time. With Kirby Dach, Alex Newhook, Oliver Kapanen, and Nick Suzuki at the helm, plus Michael Hage, Owen Beck, Jake Evans, and the like also in the system, Christian Dvorak's role might just not be all too needed in Montreal. And I don't want to say that Christian Dvorak is like this terrible player. He definitely hasn't been amazing, a huge standout in Montreal, but there was a period in his career, especially in Arizona, where he was a serviceable middle to top 6 guy who could kill penalties and who could contribute on a second power play unit. Do the Predators need that kind of a center? Maybe. They like their grit, they like their guys who can hit, they like their guys who put in effort. Christian Dvorak, you kind of need to work to get it out of him a little bit, but it's still kind of there. He's definitely an option here. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below based off of all these ideas we have tossed out there. Do you think Dante Fabbro could be a realistic option for the Montreal Canadiens? Why or why not? Do you think his acquisition would make more sense than any of the other ones that could be there on the horizon? But then again, how many other trade options are out there on the horizon? There aren't too many. Is Fabbro the default guy that you think the Canadiens should gravitate towards? And do you think a trade for Christian Dvorak could get that done? I like talking about hockey trades, quote unquote, so do you think a one-for-one deal could work out here? Both of these guys are in pretty similar situations. Their spots are filled in to the brim on their own teams. There are other centers in Montreal that are more important than Dvorak, and there are other defensemen in Nashville that are getting ice time instead of Fabbro. Maybe try to swap things out and give these two guys a new change of scenery. Does that make sense? Do you even think about adding some extra assets on top of that, a first or a second or a third, or is a one-for-one trade sufficient here? If you're a Preds fan or a Montreal Canadiens fan, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.